I'm Naomi. In this video I'm going to guide you through how to centrally place your fussy cut motif when doing 6-point diamonds. So let's start off by looking at the tools that are good to have when you're doing fussy cutting. Obviously your fabric scissors and your fabric for fussy cutting, your pin cushion, which I use to hold my needles, my binding clips, which I prefer to use rather than pins, your basting thread, paper pieces, little thread snippers, and then of course an acrylic template. This will be your best friend when fussy cutting. It enables you to line up a motif and see where it's going to go within your shape and how you decide to do it, so you don't end up going just off the shape on either side. So the way that I would do it, this is fabric by Mr. Domestic for Art Gallery Fabrics. So this is the motif that I want centrally placed in my diamond. I'm going to lay my acrylic template on top until I'm happy with the placement that I've got. I then, paper pieces have done this with an added 3/8 seam allowance, so I can just go ahead and cut right up to the template. If you want to use a rotary cutter to cut it instead, then that's fine. It's about finding what works for you. Right, so that's cut, and now I want to make sure that when I baste it I get the placement right still. So I turn it over now to the wrong side and I place my acrylic template back on top to make sure the placement is exactly where I want it to be. When I'm happy that I've lined it up, I'll get my paper pieces, and I'm also going to get a couple of binding clips ready. Say a couple, more a handful. I'm just going to let this flop open there. I'm then going to slide this paper piece in between my acrylic template and my fabric, because I know I've got the placement right, the acrylic template, so I want to then slide that in and line up the lines in your acrylic template. So you can see I'm slightly off there. So when I'm happy that I've got it, I then use my nail to make sure I'm holding just the paper piece on top of the fabric, and then I remove that. So now I know I'm holding the paper piece in the same place that I held the acrylic template. I then use this, I prefer to use the clips because I think they stop it moving around more than a pin would. And I'm going to clip it in 3 different places. If your shape's bigger, or if my shape's bigger, I tend to use more clips. This is just a 1-inch diamond, so I've got 1 on each edge. And then I'm going to go ahead and thread baste it. I've put a knot in the end of my basting thread. And I'm just going to fold this edge over. And I can already see here that I've lined that arm up, so it's not coming off the edge. I start and stop from the back of my work. I go down from the back to the front, take that clip off then, and now I'm finger pressing that in place to make sure that crisp fold is really going to hold. I'm going to dig my nail in and fold that over. And then going to come back up and go down again on that corner. This will then hold that fold into place with my thread basting. I'm going to come up halfway along the length of my shape, still checking it as I go. Yeah, and it's all looking lined up. So then I take the next clip off, fold this over, and take it down again to hold that fold in place. Come back up halfway along the length of your shape, take your final binding clip off, finger press that fold into place, use your nail to then bend it over, and then take your thread back down through that point so it's holding that fold into place. Probably should have used a contrast in basting thread, sorry. Come back up along the length and do your final, just use your thumb to push that corner under and then hold that into place. Go through, come back up and finish with your knot on the back of your work. It makes it much easier when you're removing your basting thread and your paper templates if everything's on the back of your work, because then you're not flipping it all around. And there you go, perfectly centrally placed Mr. Domestic 6-point diamond. And then just repeat this 6 times over so that you can place it around and create your 6-point diamond. So we've looked at placing your motif centrally within your diamond. The other option I wanted to talk about when you're doing a whole motif is using your diamond shape, but rather than placing the motif centrally within your diamond, what you're going to do is you're going to push, say, the edge of your motif. So I'm using this fantastic floral fabric by Mr. Domestic, and I'm going to take the tulip on this because I love tulips. So that would be centrally placed within the diamond shape, sorry. Or the other option is you're going to push this bottom bit of the flower, I'm going to push it right up into this corner here. So it's going to look like it's radiating out from my diamond corner. And the same thing, I'm going to cut it from the right side of the fabric with my 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Just check it's all still lined up. And then go to the back of my work and again check the placement. So I'm lining up this bottom edge of my diamond with the bottom of the flower. I'm just going to let this top bit of the fabric fall open enough so that I can slide my paper template in. Just going to check the placement of it. Use my nail to pull the paper template down, hold that in place while I take the acrylic off. I'm then going to clip it 3 times. I can just check that the bottom of my tulip is lining up with my diamond. So I'm going to put a clip there to hold that in place because that's the bit I really want to line up. And use another one there. And one up here. And then you're just going to go ahead and baste it in exactly the same way as before. So I've put a knot in the bottom of my thread, going through from here. And I'm always using my fingers and thumbs to finger press the fabric so it's nice and crisply folded around the paper template. And make sure I'm going to keep those diamond points. So I'm just going down to hold that fold into place, unhooking my thread from the clip because it got caught, come back up halfway along the length, fold it over, and I'm not checking the placement up here at the top because I haven't got anything to line up on this side. When I want to start checking it is when I get down to this bottom edge. So what I'm going to do is take this clip off, both clips, and I'm going to almost work from both sides now to check the placement. And there, make sure that that bottom edge of my tulip is lined up, or lined up as much as possible. Yeah, quite happy with that one. And then I'll go down and hold that in place. Come back up and then hold that corner in place and come back up once more so I can then finish my threads. So I've got both my starting and my ending knots on the back of my work as before. And then I'm just going to cut my thread and then I'll show you. So whereas before we had centrally placed in the diamond, this one I'll just move this fabric out the way so it stands out a little bit more. So this way you can see I've got my tulip pushed up right to this point of the diamond. Now this comes in handy when, this is just a mirror that I got in a stocking once from Santa. You can then place it around the edges of your tulip. Trying here to angle it for you. And what you'll be able to see is that because I've lined it up, so it's coming in from that, you're going to get a kaleidoscope effect of tulips all radiating out from that centre point. So whereas this, you don't get as much of a kaleidoscope effect, but I do still love it. The tulip gives it a completely different feel because you've now lined it up with that bottom corner. So that's just a little tip and trick. It's just a little square mirror that you can line up for two different options when you're fussy cutting a whole motif.